Learn how to draw a face. Today we're going to use two color pencils, a light one and a dark one. It doesn't matter what color they are, and some copy paper. Okay, that's simple. My name is Sandy and this is Sandy Treasures. Thank you for joining us. I hope you enjoyed the show. And stick around because at the end there's some bloopers if you like to watch people goof up. Instead of using a pencil, what we are going to use today is two color pencils, okay? And we start with the lighter color. We draw ourselves a nice little circle. It doesn't have to be perfect. And then we make it oval. From here, we make it oval. Okay, it doesn't have to be perfect. This is a learning little session. And then we divide it into half, okay? And then we're gonna divide this into thirds, okay? 1/3, 1/3, and 1/3. All right, so 1/3 would be about here, another third would be about here, right? And then this third, we're going to divide it in half, and then this third, so this is going to be 1, 2, and 3. So number 2 and number 3, we're going to divide it in half, okay? And from here, we're going to divide this in half, this side, and we're going to divide this side in half. It's a nice little grid to figure out where things are going to land, right? So on the second third, we're going to do the eyes. I like my eyes kind of big. And what you do is you figure out the size of another eye in between the two eyes. Okay, so about the same. And you can see where these two lines end kind of like in the center of the eyes. So, and now just remember, this is the way I've been doing it for a while. It comes out. And I know that there are other ways of doing it, but this is just the way that I remember learning when I was watching some books when I was a kid. I would go to my neighbor and she would let me look at all of these fashion design books. And that's where I learned this little technique. All right, so this is the center of the mouth, right? This is the third. Okay, so we're going to draw the lips. So we can start with the very center of it. You can picture kind of like two balls here and one oval shape here. That can probably help you a little bit. You see right away, you can see it. Okay. And then we just kind of like connect the dots. All right, like that. So now we're going to use this for the nose. And we're going to use, this is going to be the nostrils pretty much right here. And again, you can draw yourself a nice little circle. And then two little circles. Okay. And already you start to see the shape of the nose. So a larger circle and two little ones. And, you know, maybe you want to make them a little bit more on the oval side. Okay. And now we're going to kind of like connect the dots on this one too. So we're going to just go with a couple of arch lines. Right? And then here are the nostrils. Boom, boom. And the nose. Boom, boom, boom. So we have our nose figured out. Of course, this is that little, I don't know what you call it, but little indentation that we have right there. Okay, back to the eyes. What we want to do is kind of like give some bedroom eyes to these eyes, right? That's the way I do it. You can make it a little bit more wide open if you want to, but this is my style. Alrighty, and then here I like to do nice big eyeballs. And it's just basically half a circle. I don't like this to be touching here. This is the way I do my little dolls, my mermaids and stuff. All right, so here we go. And now we have to figure out where the eyebrows are going to go, right? So I like to use in between number 1 and number 2. And we're going to do something like this. Past, you see the pivotal point for me is past the center because I don't want the eyebrows to look like that, right? So I want it a little stylized and I move it a little bit that way. And then down this way. And then I beef him up a little bit right here. Okay. So that is where my eyebrows go. And I don't want my eyebrows to pass the very center, the corner of the eyes, the inside corners of the eyes. I don't want the eyebrows to pass that. So here we're going to do the same thing. We pass this way, and then we give it a little, like that, a little tail. Okay, and beef him up. Boom, boom, boom. So you see we have basically the map of our face. And then we go with the neck. I don't have another line for this, but I would say this line goes right. It's another division in between the outer part of the face. Okay, there you go. So I don't want my neck too thick and I don't want it too thin. All right, so now I grab the darker color pencil, and what I do is I emphasize the lines, right, the way I want them. So here I'm going to do a little bit of, a cheekbone, right? And then I pull it down. I square off the jaw a little bit, go back up, a little bit of an indentation right here where the eyes go, right? Like that. And then go up like this. Right. Okay, so now to do the eyes, because I'm not going to work on the hair yet. Okay, so on the eyes, I want to start with emphasis on this line, the eyelash line. Okay, and I like to kind of like immediately throw this up a little bit. All right, you're already starting to see it, right? So here, I like to have not touching, let's not touch this area. And here, come really close, but don't touch these two lines, just don't touch them. And then here, we do the same thing for our bedroom eyes, right? And you can always like take a picture of your face and use it as a guide. If you want to have a little bit of you in this picture, you'll see it. You actually will see it. All right, so I have that part. Oh, let's finish off the eyes. Okay, so here we're going to just, the eye ducts, right? We're going to just do a little bit of that eye duct, and then we're going right here, and then we do the same thing here, a little bit of an eye duct, and then we go right here, right? And then we want to have this nostril, right? And then this nostril. You see, so you make like micro corrections as you keep on going with the darker pencil. So you keep correcting and keep correcting. All right, and then the nostrils. Sometimes I have to stand up a little bit because the lamp is exactly where my head would love to be. All right. And then we work on the lips, round this off a little bit. Da, da, da. And notice where the lip, if you need to have another grid line, then do so. I would say somewhere in the center here, you pull another grid line. Right there. Okay. And once you reach this line right here, you want to just pull it out a little bit more. And then here, I don't want to touch this here. I just want to go from here. Okay. And then here comes, this has like a little bit of a, to me, it has a little bit of a curve, right? So I'm picturing two balls here and then here. But in this ball, in this section, the lower lip, I want to picture two balls also. Okay. So I go there and dun dun. And then here, usually I like to have just a little bit of a sign of, indentation. Okay. Also here. And then now let's do a little bit more on the eyes. I like to not connect that because there's going to be a highlight, right? Okay. And then it's a simple, boom, boom, a highlight like that. You leave it open. Leave it open. Okay, and we're going to really darken this. I think I need a darker pencil for this, but basically what we're doing is building the map for drawing a face. All right, we didn't do the ears. Let's go back into this pencil here. So basically the ears, I figure them to be at the top of the eyelids and kind of like lined up with the nostrils. So you would do, it's not much, it's just, I don't go out too much either. So there we go. We have the ears. So it's not a lot of detail here. If you wanted some detail, you can add it there, but we're just mapping out the face, right? All right, so here, of course, the face has, I mean, the ears have a little bit of that, I don't know, is this called a tragus? I think it is. I should know. I used to pierce. All right, so here we're going with the eyebrows, the hairs. I'm going to have them slanted, right? Like that, Papa. All right. And then we're going to do the same on the other side. Ba-da-da, like that. All right, another thing we want to do is, so it doesn't look so flat, we're just going to do a little bit of a shading here on these areas. Not too much. We're not doing too much detail. This is just a little exercise. I kind of like to put a little bit of bags. I happen to have real big bags under my eyes, but I just kind of think it looks a little better with the little bags under her eyes. Just a little bit of that. Okay. And you can also, you know, if you want to do a little bit more shading, like on the side of the face, so it gets a little bit of that roundness, right? So just like that. All right. And then there you have it. Now let's go for the hair. All right, like what are we going to do for hair? Let's do, I'm going to use the hairdo that I have right now, which is not much of a hairdo, but anyway. So we want to do the hair, like she's picking up her hair and then everything else is loose like this. And I do have curly hair, so I'm throwing in the curls. So here we go with the hairline. And when you are on this side, notice how my arch for the hair is going in that direction, right? So arch, 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 arch. When I'm on the other side, I want to do the opposite, this way, arch, right? You see it? So those type of arches. And then here, just kind of like get tucked behind the ear. All right, so do more of this. And as I get a little bit more to the center, I straighten out a little bit. So this is a nice technique to accomplish many things, not just the hair, but it could be, let's say, the scales for mermaid's tail or something like that, you know, which you will see because I do like painting and drawing mermaids. So there, and then I do some hair like this. At this point, I can pull the darker pen or the darker pencil. And I want to pass a little bit this line, okay? So pass it, because I can see, yeah, like that. Coming to the center. On this point here, like probably build a little bit more this connection from the forehead to the hair, just right here. Okay, and then do the same thing on the other side. You see, that's what I was trying to build a little bit more here. And at this point, I'm kind of like standing up right over it because usually all of these recording gadgets are right on top of my drawing and I don't want to get it too skewed. So I see she probably has too much of a forehead, so you can always pull it down a little bit more. You can also give her a little bit of, you know, some people have this shape on their hair line, like that V shape on the hairline. Okay, you can do that right there. Ba, 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 ba. All right. And we're pretty much done with the basics here. And then do the curly hair or straight hair, whatever it is that you want. The closer it is to the face, you know, like you want to go a little deeper in color. So basically that means shade it in a little bit more, all right? So that way it gives a little bit of dimension. So the darker it is, the more it recedes, right? Okay, and then we're going to do the same thing on the other side. Boom, boom, boom. That's how my hair rolls. A little on the curly side. It used to be really curly. All right, there you go. If you want to play with it a little bit more, you know, you can just go ahead and do a little bit more shading. Usually there's a little bit more shading around the nose here. And I'm not even looking at a picture of myself or anything. It's just, you know, like you kind of like memorize where this goes. And it makes it easy if you like to create your own dolls. So here, there you go. A little bit of shading like that. You can throw a little bit of shading on the bridge of the nose right on top like that. Give it a little cute factor. And then right here on the nostrils, boom, 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 like that. So basically a little dense shading right underneath it, kind of like in a circular way, right? You see how it forms? All right. So you can play with that. Also on the eyeballs, you know, this is the way I shade it. Like the corners have like a little bit of a deeper shading, right? Except for the ducks. Like skip the duck and then go right there as far as like the shading. And then all of a sudden, boom, you rounded off the eye, right? Also give a little bit of shading right underneath the eyelid. Right there. And then boom, boom, boom. Like that. And just a tad underneath, right? Just a tad underneath. Soft shading, you can practice that with this. Now let's go ahead and do, okay, before we do that, let's go ahead and finish off this. So usually I shade a little bit deeper on the corners of the eyelids, on the edges, right? And then here too. And then here too. And if you want to get a little bit more detail, like here, usually there's a little bit of a shade that naturally occurs right here. And it kind of like goes, I'm going to point it out. It goes like in this shape, right? So I shade that a little bit. And I shade this a little bit. And I go around like this. And there's always a little shading right here. And then I want to say that the upper lip is a little bit more forward. And so then that would require for me to shade this part a little bit more. So it looks like it's a little bit ahead of the bottom lip. So this is a little bit more forward. The top lip is a little bit more forward than the bottom lip. So you want to shade slightly underneath here, like that. And of course the corners get a little bit of a deeper shading. On the top, I like to kind of like make these little lines, just like I was doing here, you know, how the lines were going arched. Okay, like do those little lines arched and then go on the other direction arched like that. You can also do that with the bottom. It gives the texture to the lips, right? And let me see what else. I think we have it. You want to just probably like do a little bit more shading here on the neck, a little bit under, you know, this is important, a little bit under the neck, under the face. So that way it pulls the face forward over the neck. So we do a little bit of that kind of shading. like that. And then usually there's like a little bit of a V down here. And this is all from memory. I'm not even looking at anything right now, but just from memory from doing it so many times. Usually there's a little bit of a shade here. So if you want to practice that on this, of course, just like that. It just makes things a little rounder, right? And then usually there's also a little bit of more shading in between the eyes, like that. Okay, so there we have it. You can go crazy with the shading because there's all kinds of shades you're going to find the more you look. But this is basically the little practice sample that we're doing. And hopefully you guys enjoyed doing this. And I would love to see what you guys are accomplishing. So not just leave a comment, but send me a picture. I'd like to see how your little practice session turned out. And if you put your features, it makes it even better. All right. Thank you, guys. So there you have it. This is what I did today. And I know the features are exaggerated because it's a doll. So that's what I do when I paint this kind of stuff. So hopefully you enjoyed that, and I'll see you on the next video. We'll have something else to work on. Video if you